Good evening. There was a man called Karshanovsky, an agitator for Polish freedom in the 50s, who was exiled by the Tsar. On the journey, his child was taken ill, and when he begged an official to let him stop on his way to nurse it, the official said, "Not to bother. What's one baby's life among all these thousands," said the official. "If it's dying, leave it behind." Luckily, this expedient was found unnecessary. And the happy ending of the story is that little Joseph Conrad Karshanovsky lived to drop his last name and to learn that careful, fortunate English which he practiced to the everlasting glory of our literature. Tonight we present you with a dramatization of one of the best regarded and most typical of the works of Joseph Conrad. The Heart of Darkness could be described as a deliberate masterpiece or a downright incantation. A fine piece of prose work at the least. Its best aspects are an artful compound of sympathy for humankind and a high tragical disgust. Its successful contrivance of mood hides its craft as an octopus hides in its own ink. And almost we are persuaded that there is something, after all, something essential, waiting for all of us in the dark alleys of the world, aboriginally loathsome, immeasurable, and certainly nameless. The yawl swung to her anchor without a flutter of the sails. It was at rest. The flood had made, the wind was nearly calm, and being bound down the river, the only thing to do was to come and wait for the turn of the tide. The sea reach of the Thames stretched before us like the beginning of an interminable waterway. In the offing sea and sky were welded together without a joint. The air was dark above Gravesend, and farther back still it seemed condensed into a mournful doom, brooding motionless over the biggest and greatest town on earth. Then in the darkness, my friend Marlowe spoke.
This also has been one of the dark places on the earth.
His remark didn't seem at all surprising. Marlowe was a sailor. It was just like him.
I was thinking of very old times when the Romans first came here. 1900 years ago. Some decent young citizen in a toga. Perhaps too much dice, you know, coming out here to mend his fortunes. Land in the swamp, march through the woods, and in some inland post feel the savagery, the utter savagery that flows around him. Growing regret, the longing to escape, the powerless disgust, the surrender, the hate. I don't know if I ever told you, I was in such a place once. There I met a man just like that. It was a long time ago. I had a job with a concern at the time, a trading society in Western Africa. One of their captains had been killed in a scuffle with the natives. He needed a man to replace him on one of the river boats, and they weren't particular whom they took. I left in a German steamer, and she called at every port on the way. It was 30 days before I saw the mouth of the big river. Its coast was the edge of a colossal jungle, so dark green as to be almost black. The sun was fierce. The land seemed to glisten and drip with steam. Here and there, grayish-white specks showed up, clustered inside the white surf with a tin shed and a flagpole. And all around, the jungle.
You know, it's funny, Mr. Barlow, where some people will live for a few francs a month.
Well, looks like a dreary country, Captain. No mistake.
I wonder what becomes of those fellows when they go up country.
I expect to see that soon.
Sure? Don't be too sure. Last year, I took up a man who hanged himself on the road. He was a Swede.
Hanged himself? Why?
Who knows? Sun was too much for him, or the country, perhaps. There's your company station. I'll send your things up. $4, you said so. Very well. Good luck to you.
Goodbye, Captain. As I climbed up the steep hill to the company station, I met a white man in such an unexpected elegance of get-up. In the first moment, I took him for a sort of vision. I saw a high-starched collar, white cuffs, a light alpaca jacket, snowy trousers, a clear necktie, and varnished boots. No hat. Hair parted, brushed and oiled under a green-lined parasol.
You're Mr. Mallow?
Yes.
I'm the company's accountant. Let us step into my office.
What's that?
So don't disturb yourself. An agent from up country, either.
Will you just leave him there?
There is no place else to put him until well, as long as he's alive. It's a nuisance all around. His groans distract my attention. And it's difficult enough to guard against clerical errors in this country.
Yes, I suppose so.
So you're going to the ivory country, Mr. Mallow? Interesting.
I've gathered that impression already.
For my part, I like books better. Entries and all that. And by the way, you'll meet Mr. Kurtz up there, you know.
Who is Mr. Kurtz?
Mr. Kurtz is the agent at the farthest station inn. He sends down more ivory than all the others put together.
That must make him a valuable man to the company.
Indeed, he'll go far, very far. Over the heads of many of us that... Well, I won't go into detail. When you see Mr. Kurtz, please tell him that everything is very satisfactory. I'd write him, but you can't tell who might get hold of a letter at the Central Station. Oh, I forgot the sick man. No, it's all right. He doesn't hear.
You mean?
No, not yet. Yes, it's Mr. Kurtz. He's a very remarkable person.
Next day, I started for the Central Station, 200 miles inland. Paths. Paths everywhere, spreading over the empty land, through the long grass, through thickets, down and up chilly ravines, up and down stony hills ablaze with heat and solitude. Great silence around and above. On the 15th day, I came in sight of the big river again. Hobbled into the Central Station. It was on a black water surrounded by scrub and forest. with a pretty border of smelly mud on one side, and the three others enclosed by a crazy fence of rushes. White men with long sticks in their hands appeared languidly from amongst the buildings. They made no effort to welcome me. In fact, paid no particular attention to my arrival, except for a casual glance. I walked up to the largest hut in the enclosure. How do you do? My name is Marlowe. Captain Marlowe of the riverboat.
Oh, yes. You've been a long time coming, Marlowe. Your boat is wrecked, Captain.
What did you say, sir?
Wrecked. Her bottom was torn out on stones, and she sank near the south bank. But everyone behaved splendidly. You will have to fish her out. It will be some time before you will be able to make the trip up the river. For some months, in fact.
Why, that's unbelievable.
You'll believe it when you see her. I want you to have a look at her and let me know how soon she'll be ready.
Who are you, sir?
I'm the manager here, the company's manager. The situation here is grave, very grave. I don't yet know who is dead and who is alive. And with the boat laid up, we don't know how things stand. But there are rumors, grave rumors, that a very important station is in jeopardy. And Mr. Kurtz, our manager, is ill.
Kurtz? I think I heard his name down on the coast.
Ah, so they talk of Mr. Kurtz down there, do they?
They do? He must be a very unusual man.
Quite so. A very unusual man. Very successful, too. You can understand my anxiety. You should be ready to start in 3 months. Yes, 3 months. That ought to do the affair.
Went down and looked at my battered, twisted tin pot steamboat. She rang under my feet like an empty biscuit tin kicked along the gutter. I didn't realize at the moment how accurately the manager had estimated the time required for the affair, as he called it. Weeks of waiting. Weeks of waiting for a box full of rivets to come up from the coast. And in those weeks, I saw the station full of white men with long sticks in their hands, strolling aimlessly about like a lot of faithless pilgrims bewitched inside a rotten fence. The word ivory rang in the air, with whispers and with sighs. You'd think they were praying to the great god Ivory. I've never seen anything so unreal in my life. One evening, I happened to be in the hut of the assistant manager. I noticed on his table a small sketch in oils representing a woman draped and blindfolded carrying a lighted torch. Tell me, did you paint this?
Oh, no, that was painted by Mr. Kurtz in his station more than a year ago. Mr. Kurtz painted it while waiting for means to go to his trading post.
Oh, Mr. Kurtz, eh?
Mr. Kurtz is the chief of the inner station. Oh, he's a prodigy. He sends down more ivory than any of our other agents. Besides that, he's an emissary of pity and science and progress. And so he comes here, a special being. So today, Mr. Kurtz is the chief of the best station. Next year, he will be assistant manager. 2 years more and... but I dare say you know what he will be in 2 years' time. You're one of the new gang, Captain. Oh, I know what I'm talking about. I have my own eyes to trust.
You read the company's confidential correspondence.
What do you mean?
With Mr. Kurtz as general manager, you won't have the opportunity. Well, the rivets arrived just in time to make good the manager's prediction. In 3 months, almost to a day, I set out to the interior to relieve Mr. Kurtz at the inner station. Heavy, sluggish. There was no joy in the brilliance of the sunshine. As we steamed deeper into the jungle, the roll of drums behind the cordon of trees kept a distant, constant tremor. I had to keep guessing at the channel, watching for sunken stones that would have ripped the life out of the tin pot steamboat and drowned us all. Still the drums beat on behind us, ahead of us, on all sides of us. The steamer toiled along slowly on the edge of a black and incomprehensible frenzy. The prehistoric man, cursing us, praying to us, welcoming us. Who could tell? Not far below the inner station, we came upon a hut of reeds. An inclined and melancholy pole with the unrecognizable tatters of what had been a flag of some sort flying from it. The manager and I, who went ashore, found a flat piece of board with some faded pencil writing on it. It read, "Hurry up to inner station. Coach, coffee." There was a signature, but it was illegible. Not put.
What do you make of this, Captain?
Someone trying to be mysterious.
Approach cautiously. Approach what?
We better control the light to find out. We're only 8 miles from Kurtz now, aren't we?
8 miles of dangerous river. Guns getting low. After this warning, I prefer to approach the station by daylight.
But Kurtz may need us. He may be in trouble.
I hope not. It wouldn't sit well with the company if something happened to Mr. Kurtz before we reach.
Is your only concern what the company thinks?
Just what do you mean?
How about Kurtz? Don't you want Kurtz to come back?
Why, Captain Marlowe, what an extraordinary notion. Of course, we want Mr. Kurtz to come back. Such a remarkable man.
When the sun rose next morning, there was a white fog, very warm and clammy and more blinding than the night. It stood all around us like something solid. At 8 or 9, perhaps, it began to lift as a shutter lifts. We had a glimpse of the growing multitude of trees, of the immense matted jungle with the blazing little ball of the sun hanging over it. At last, the opaque water, still and treacherous, was dimly visible from the wheelhouse where I stood beside my pilot. The company men, their alpaca suits whiter than the fog, stood on the deck below me.
Undercover everybody.
Thank Ardeon.
No, it's right.
All around us.
Oh, Captain,
Yes,
can't you get us on the way?
it's the natives of the rocks. Take your choice.
Try the river, Captain. They'll force us if we stay on shore.
High below. Even the chains. Steam ahead. Watch those eddies, pilot.
Watch, Captain.
Half steam below.
Look out there! Arrows!
Arrows! Close the shutters on your side, pilot.
Smoke. Can't see over.
Keep it straight, pilot. Stay below. Stop firing. Oh, wait. Here's something that'll do more than your confounded guns.
Oh, are you up there, Captain?
All right. Well, thanks to your target practice,
Well, we beat them off.
you beat them all. Steam whistle beat them off. The gun smoke nearly wrecked us.
Captain Marlowe, you behaved admirably. Everyone behaved admirably. A credit to the company.
Well, I'm afraid they got one of the crew.
Yes, here he is on the deck. Poor devil. He's got an arrow sticking through his chest. Give me a hand with this arrow. Steady there. It's got a steel tip. Strange. There's no steel in the Belgian Congo. I wonder if by any chance Mr. Kurtz.
To reach Kurtz was becoming an obsession with me. The current was more rapid now. The steamer seemed at her last gasp. The stern wheel flopped languidly. I caught myself listening always for the next beat of the engine. I expected the wretched plane to give up every moment. It was like watching the last flickers of a light. At last we drew into sight of a dreary shore, and there was a clearing that rose to a slight knoll overlooking the river. The inner station was a long, tumble-down building perched on a hill, half buried in the high grass, with a thick, meshed jungle hanging over its rotted roof. I stopped the engine. The boat drifted slowly to the slimy bank. We let out the anchor chain to the stump of a tree. As soon as the gangplank was lowered, the company's manager and his 3 satellites set out with their brisk efficiency toward the silent house of Kurtz. After a moment, I became aware of a strange, ragged figure on the wharf. Hello down there.
Captain.
Come up here to the pilot house.
Captain, I'm glad you've come.
Did you come in time? How is Mr. Kurtz?
Mr. Kurtz, too. Still Mr. Kurtz.
We were just attacked by natives on the river.
Oh, yes. They are simple people. They meant no harm. It was one of Mr. Kurtz's little jokes. Now, allow me to introduce myself. Chekasov, Russian. Son of an archpriest, government of Temple. A great pleasure to talk with a white man, Captain.
Don't you talk with Mr. Kurtz?
Well, you don't talk with that man. You listen to him. Mr. Kurtz, Captain, has enlarged my mind. We talked of everything. Everything. He made me see things.
And ever since, you've been with him, of course.
Oh, on the contrary. Very often I had to wait for days before he would turn up. It was worth waiting for, though. Sometimes.
What was he doing? Exploring, or what?
Oh, yes, of course. He's discovered many villages, a lake, too. And so exactly in what direction. Dangerous to inquire too much. Most of these expeditions were for ivory.
He had no goods to trade with by that time, did he?
There's a lot of good cartridges left, even yet.
You mean he raided the country?
Not alone.
Kurtz got the tribes to follow him, did he?
Oh, they adore him. They think him a god. They worship him with ivory. What can you expect? He came to them with thunder and lightning, you know. They've never seen guns before. He could be very terrible. You can't judge Mr. Kurtz as you would ordinary man. Now, just to give you an idea, I don't mind telling you he wanted to shoot me, too, one day. But I don't judge him.
Shoot you? What for?
Well, I had a small lot of ivory, and he wanted it, and wouldn't hear reason. He said he'd shoot me unless I gave him the ivory and paid out. Yes, I did. But I didn't clear out. I couldn't leave him. I offered to go back with him, and he would say yes, and then he would disappear on another ivory hunt. Forget himself among these people. Forget himself. You know.
Why? The man's mad.
We don't say such things here.
I followed the frightened glance of the Russian to the house above the shore. I saw that the round knobs that stood on stakes by Kurtz's door were not ornamental, but were symbolic. Food for thought, and also for vultures. They would have been even more impressive, those heads on the stakes, if their faces had not been turned to the house. Suddenly, round the corner of the house, a group of natives appeared, as though they had come up from the ground. They waded waist-deep in the grass in a compact body bearing an improvised stretcher in their midst. And now, at last, I was to see Kurtz. Behind the stretcher, 2 of the agents carried his arms. 2 shotguns, a heavy rifle, and a light revolver carbine. The thunderbolts of that pitiful beautiful. And now I knew what I watched was not merely the departure of Mr. Kurtz from the inner station, but with the last jungle rites of one who had become its supreme being. The dark warmth of the wilderness breathed out an immense horde of naked men. A black circle that writhed and stamped around the small white center of frightened Europeans. In the rear of this strange procession came a moving chain of black bodies, carrying on their shoulders a gleaming white idol. The stretcher was carried up the gangplank. From the pilot's deck, I looked down on the long, gaunt figure of Kurtz. The hollow cage of his ribs. The bald skeleton head like an ivory ball.
Put him down there. Get the cabin ready. Open the door. Careful with him.
A moment later, the manager came up to the pilot's bridge.
Oh, Captain Marlowe.
Yes?
I think we should steam up as soon as the ivory is loaded. No telling about these natives.
Mr. Kurtz.
Mr. Kurtz is a very sick man. We've done all we could for him, though, haven't we? But there's no disguising the fact that Mr. Kurtz has been more harm than good to the company. There's a remarkable quantity of ivory, but his methods have been unsound.
You call it unsound methods?
Without doubt, don't you?
No methods at all. But he got the ivory. I consider Mr. Kurtz a remarkable man.
He was. A most remarkable man.
So we swung downstream, and thousands of eyes from the jungle followed the splashing river demon, beating the water with its terrible tail, and breathing black smoke into the air. Through the dense forest, the brown current ran swiftly out of the heart of darkness, bearing us down towards the sea with twice the speed of our progress upstream. And Kurtz's life was running swiftly, too, ebbing out of his heart into the sea of inexorable time. Evenings, when the boat was anchored and I was free from the wheel, I went down to Kurtz's cabin. On the third night, I found him weakening fast.
Yes.
How are you tonight, Mr. Kurtz?
Well enough to be back at my station. That place is mine. You've no right to take me away. It's that manager, that stupid scoundrel. He wants my ivory. He's blocked me at every turn.
Don't excite yourself, Mr. Kurtz. You're sick, you know.
Sick? Sick? Not so sick as you'd like to believe. Never mind. I'll carry out my ideas yet. I will return. I'll show you what can be done here. You with your little peddling notions. You're interfering with me. I will return. I have more to do than die here in this stinking jungle.
You're not going to die, Mr. Kurtz.
Of course I'm not going to die. I have too much to accomplish. Close the shutter, will you? That light. Did you close the shutter, Mr. Marlowe?
The shutter is closed, sir.
Tighter, tighter. I can't stand the light. I tell you. You must show them you have in you something that is really profitable. The methods you use aren't important. I was driven. No matter. You must take care of the motives, Mr. Morrow. Right motives, always. That's the thing.
Very true, sir.
It was the manager, that noxious fool, who drove me to it. He pried into my boxes when I was not looking. He destroyed me with the company. But I was the company. I was the company. I sent them more ivory. More ivory. That's what they wanted. Ivory.
You must be quiet, sir.
Ivory. That light, shut up. That light.
There is no light, sir.
It's the ivory. The ivory. Horror. Horror.
The next day, soon after dawn, they lowered his body into a muddy hole in the bank of the murky river. He started downstream again. Among his belongings was a packet of letters and the photograph of a girl. 6 months later, those letters and the picture took me to a house in Antwerp. I stood before the mahogany door on the first floor.
Dear Mr. Marlowe, please come in.
I have certain letters for you.
Yes. You were his friend. You must have been if he gave you these and sent you to me.
Yes. I was his friend.
Who was not his friend who had heard him speak once? Who drew men towards him by what was destiny? It was the gift of the great. But you have heard him. You know.
Yes. I know.
And all of this, all of his promise, and of all his greatness, of his generous mind, of his noble heart, nothing remains. Nothing but a memory. You and I.
We shall always remember him.
And his example. Men looked up to him. His goodness shone in every act. I believe in him more than anything on earth. Forgive me. I've mourned so long in silence. In silence. You were with him to the last.
At the very end, I heard his very last words.
Repeat them. I want something to live with. His last word to live with. Don't you understand? I loved him. I loved him. I loved him.
The last word he pronounced was your name.
My friend Marlowe ceased. The story was over. Nobody moved for a time.
Well, we've lost the first of the ebb.
I raised my head. The offing was barred by a black bank of clouds. And the tranquil waterway leading to the uttermost ends of the earth flowed somber under an overcast sky and seemed to lead into the heart of an immense darkness.
Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air have just brought you an original dramatization of The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, with Orson Welles as the author and as Kurth.